Beginning of the month, the Namibia Meteorological Services warned that heatwave conditions were set to persist throughout, especially in the northern parts of the country, whereby daily temperatures reached as high as 40 degrees Celsius. Now, the past weekend, heavy rains and wind, accompanied by a hailstorm, rocked the capital city on Sunday afternoon, while coastal towns experienced lightning and thunder. Odillo Kgobetsi, who is the chief forecaster at the Namibia Meteorological Services, joins us to give a forecast on the weather changes and the expected weather conditions for summer. Good evening, Mr. Kgobetsi, and welcome to the show.
Good evening and good evening to the listeners.
Right. Now, with the various weather conditions being experienced across the country, were these conditions such as the hailstorm and the lightning in the coastal areas unexpected, and will they persist?
What happens is that the low pressure system that is basically just moving in from the Atlantic is basically causing the moisture to drift in then over the interior. And then normally what happens with this type of systems, we call it the cut-off low pressure system. So it resulted in some showers first from the southwest over the southwestern part of Namibia. But as it moved in over land, it ended up bringing some tropical moisture from Angola. And with that type of system, with the heat and moisture combined, which is very good ingredients for thunderstorms to develop, mainly over the continent like of Africa, this has resulted then in uplift and cloud development, and therefore thunder showers then to set in over Namibia. And then because of that triggering mechanism, it ended up bringing a lot of moisture, and therefore unstable air over the interior, and that resulted actually in lightning, thunderstorms, and also hailstorms in places. So this system, as it moved in over the weekend, it caused a lot of rains, a lot of thunder showers, and also hailstorms, as you can just recall that over Windhoek and parts of Omaheke and also the southeastern part. It resulted in severe hailstorms over the interior. And as this system is moving now slightly further from the west into the interior, we are seeing that the shift is basically like over the northeast, some parts of the central high ground, and also shifting towards the southeastern parts of Namibia. What happens is that we are seeing that mechanism that is moving slightly out, what we call in terms of meteorology, you call it the cold area. What happens is the low pressure system is between two high pressure systems. It forms a deep low pressure system that is extending from Angola down south even to South Africa. And with that system, it moves very slowly, therefore maintaining the moisture over Namibia. And this is still going to result in thunder showers for the rest of this weekend. A bit of dryness then setting in from the west. And that is also, we can see that it's also creeping in over the central part. But the good news is that with this system still maintained, we are seeing that the high pressure system, which we call then the mascarene high, becomes a bit stronger than from tomorrow to Thursday. It will shift again the low pressure system westwards, and therefore then will result in thunder showers then again over the western part of Namibia. So which is typically a good sign for thunderstorms development and over the SADC region.
Now, Mr. Kgobetsi, in just 1 month, we have experienced a heat wave, a hailstorm, and thunder showers. What are some of the contributing factors to these weather changes?
What happens that is because when we're like driving into the main season, which is now October, it happens that there was a high pressure system that was sitting over Botswana, over South Africa, and also Namibia. This has resulted in subsidence of air, and that resulted actually in heat conditions over the interior. But as this system now started to becoming weaker, it still kept the heatness then over the interior, and with the moisture then that came through from Angola, it resulted in a good good ideal situation for thunderstorms to develop. And what happens with thunderstorms is that in the thunderstorm cell, you normally have updrafts and downdraft of moisture. So it mechanism results basically in an electrical type of system, what we what you call is a dynamic system in the atmosphere, and therefore results in this moisture drift, so that the moisture doesn't get enough time to melt, and therefore results then in hailstorms to develop.
All right. Now, Mr.
So
Kgobetsi,
with this heat, it was actually very good then for us with moisture that came through, so that we can have this type of mechanism to take place.
all right. Now, Mr. Kgobetsi, the hailstorm took place in some parts of the country only. Why is that?
Yeah, what happens is we have some mesoscale effect. Mesoscale effect is a very smaller type of systems, and that normally results in that. So we have mechanisms that normally give this type of systems or trigger these systems. It's either topography plays a big role, or you have a mesoscale system where they have some valleys where moisture normally has been lifted up in such a way that it moves up in a very fast way, and then that happens that on the least side of the area, then that area becomes more ideal than for these systems of hailstorms to develop. So it depends from a local as a local type of effect. So that's why you'll find that sometimes it rains very good or heavy in certain suburbs, and then the suburb is very dry. So it depends from the topography of that area.
Okay. Now, we've also seen an increase in veld fires over the past months. Is this related to the current weather conditions?
The veld fires is twofold. It's either is that natural, is it because of nature itself? Because what happens if it's weather related, then it's because of lightning. But there might be some other human factors that could possibly result in the veld fires. But I will rather concentrate on meteorology. So the main component that normally happens is lightning that might have taken place in some places. So if there was lightning and it was the natural factor, then it normally results in this. Because what happens is, as I said earlier on, that most of our rains are continental derived in Africa, and therefore you have thunderstorms, and with the thunderstorms, there is always that likelihood of some lightning taking place. And with the lightning, it normally causing a bit of that veld fires over the parts of interior.
All right. Now, Mr. Kgobetsi, for us to round up this evening's conversation, what weather conditions can we expect from now on? And also, are we expecting snow this Christmas?
Okay, no, it's a bit premature to tell about snow. But what happens with snow, it's always a likelihood of it to do with temperatures. And as I said, that our type of system is normally continental drive in Africa. So we need to have heat. But during this time of summer, the likelihood is to have hailstorms, flash floods, and also flooding. So that might be the system that will come into play as we go within the season. Because what happens is that if there is still a lot of rain that is going to take place, if it's still going to be sustained, then we are risky. There's a risk then of having flash floods. There's a risk of having some flooding in places like low-lying areas, and Shanas and all that areas. And we hope that this system is not going to be very, very active. Although rain is always good, but if it becomes a lot, then over certain areas, then it causes runoff, and with that runoff, then we'll have floods then taking place. So let's hope that the weather is getting to be controlled the way it's coming through, and let's have a good, wonderful system then for the first 3 months.
All right, Mr. Kgobetsi, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Very much welcome, and let's hope for good rains.
All right. That was Odillo Kgobetsi, who is the chief forecaster at the Namibia Meteorological Services, talking to us about the weather changes, saying that this month we have experienced a hailstorm. That is, of course, heat wave and also shower rains. And he did caution us that we are to expect a hailstorm, flash floods, and also floods. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we continue with the conversations. But for now, let's take a break.